Okay, so we are now on to the sixth and final season of The Sopranos. However, of course, we've still got effectively another two seasons to go because confusingly they split the last season into effectively two seasons. So, yes. There's been a bit of a gap between the recording that I made of the fifth season, partly because I'm slightly rustier on season 6A. I think I am slightly rustier on this. And that's a bit of a pun, by the way, isn't it? Now that I think about it, rusty character. Um, and yeah, I did have a bit of a cold when I recorded the season 5 tier list. So um, yeah, I sound pretty terrible in that. I don't know if you can notice if you've watched that, but yeah. So anyway, season 6A. Let's get on to that. So the first episode is the very important episode of Members Only. And this, I think, is the longest gap between seasons, almost 2 years. We get an opening which I think is quite similar to the opening of season 2, with a montage at the opening of showing what the characters have been up to, essentially, and yeah, how they've either progressed or regressed over those 2 years or so. Um, yeah, we get the clarification that we all feared, that Phil Leotardo is the boss of the family. I guess there's no other alternative, given that Johnny Sacks is in jail and Carmine Jr. is sort of giving up on that ambition, seemingly giving up on that ambition. And we get probably one of the most bloody episodes of the entire series. We get two characters dying, Ray Curto and Eugene Pontecorvo. Neither the most prominent, but also neither the most obscure either. They're both rats, for example. They're both quite significant in that sense. Yeah. And we get a scene with Hesh and his son-in-law being assaulted. And most importantly of all, perhaps, we get the further progression of Uncle Junior's dementia, to the point that he, of course, shoots Tony. Really should have been it really, inverted commas, should have been a fatal shooting, given it was at point blank range. Yeah. Um, you have to wonder whether Tony's, weight or something helped him or something. Yeah, it didn't. I don't know about that, but yeah. Um, yeah, and we get those are the main cruxes of this episode, and yeah, it's probably the most action packed of all season premieres, really, isn't it? Yeah, they're usually a bit lighter on the action, but this is just bam, 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 and I suppose I suppose it sort of gives people certain fans satisfaction for a while, because the upcoming episodes will be not to everyone's liking, perhaps, in terms of those who like a lot of action, certainly, etc. Yeah. So I'm going to put this episode in I think this is very high A tier. Yeah, let's put it right at the top of A tier, just because it's the best, as I say, I think, of the season premieres. So yeah, and members only. Yeah, that's an important title, isn't it? Oh, and just to note, this is the last appearance of I think, Agent Sanseverino, the FBI agent who everyone who she handles. I think Adriana, and then Ray Curto, and then Eugene Pontecorvo. They all die. Yeah, so she's sort of an unlucky one, as it were, in that sense. So yeah. So episode 2 is Join the Club, the first of the hospital episodes and coma episodes. Yeah. Yeah, this is sort of, it's very, very sort of introspective, isn't it? I mean, sort of Tony dealing with who he is, and other people dealing with who Tony is as well. Yeah, it's sort of one you have to watch and re-watch a lot, I think, to get what they're getting at here. The stuff with the monks and everything else, the stuff with Kevin Finnerty, you know, someone who's so similar to Tony, of course, in some ways, but very different in other ways. Sort of, I think, supposed to represent an every American man, isn't he? More than Tony does, certainly. Yeah, you get the sort of how the crime family sort of unravels, and how the blood family unravels as well, with Tony in a coma. Sort of Carmela is not dealing with it very well, and Silvio doesn't really make for a good acting boss, does he? And he can't control the big personalities around him, and yeah. So yeah, I'd say this is another A tier, isn't it? Bit lower down, I'd say. Somewhere around there, mid A tier, I'd say. Yeah. So the third episode is Mayhem, or Mayhem. I think it's pronounced, isn't it? um, and it's spelt that way as well. Yeah. Um, so yeah, sort of a continuation of what we saw in the previous episode. The unraveling of Silvio being acting boss. He literally gets taken to hospital himself, and this is probably the episode where Vito is at his high point. If Tony had died here, he probably becomes boss, really. Certainly the most suitable, putting aside his secrets, the most suitable candidate for boss. Yeah. And we get one of those rare Carmela Malfi scenes. I think the last time they see each other, and the last time they're shown together, in the series. Yeah, and this is where Tony, of course, wakes up during this episode, and after seeing Tony Blundetto in the dream, or someone who looks like him anyway, his last appearance, I think, of Steve Buscemi. Yeah, and and he doesn't seem too glad to have woken up, does he? And we get the whole storyline with little Carmine, the start of the whole Cleaver arc, and AJ. AJ is not handling things well. We get that as well, and yeah, yeah. So it's one of those. It's you can't sort of differentiate this much from the previous episode. Really, it's sort of similar, like a two-parter. Really, is this as good as? It's got to be somewhere around. Yeah, it's going to have to be just below the previous one, isn't it? It's just because they're so similar, really. Yeah. So the fourth episode is the fleshy part of the thigh. Very introspective again, but probably the best of this series of episodes. And we get an additional introspective storyline with Paulie and his mother, and we get the Bobby getting involved with the whole rappers, and yeah, as a way of trying to make, trying to make some money or whatever, isn't he? Yeah, and the one of the great one episode characters is Swin, isn't it? Yeah, one of those wise characters who takes a sort of Buddhist view of things, doesn't he? Like everything's interconnected and everything. And yeah, the Paulie storyline with finding out that Nucci, his mother, isn't his mother at all. It's his mother is in fact his Aunt Dottie, who's a dying nun. And this is where we get the theory, I think, don't we, that is Russ Fagoli Paulie's father, because Russ Fagoli or Russ is the name apparently of Paulie's father, who abandoned him or whatever. Who's this Russ bastard or whatever he says. Yeah. And yeah, we get the Tony going out of the hospital, seeming to have changed somewhat, at least for the moment, But yeah. Yeah, this has got to be, I think, S tier, actually, just about in S tier. I'd say very low. I'd say low S tier, yeah. Yeah, low S tier, I think. Just looking through them, sorry, yeah. Yeah, so that would be the fleshy part of the thigh, and that would be the end of the hospital arc. Again, quite a divisive arc, but one that needs to be rewatched to, I think, properly understand it, as I kind of already said. Yeah. So the fifth episode is Mr. and Mrs. John Sacrimony Request. Now, this is one of those. This is like Marco Polo and episodes such as that, and The Happy Wanderer perhaps as well. An episode that I like more than most people do, and it's going to be ranked pretty highly, I have to say that now, but let's go through it. Yeah, so it's the reason why I like it, because I like episodes with sort of a big set piece, and you have kind of the conflict set around the set piece. Who's going to be there, and the interactions between characters, the awkwardness, the comedy, etc. And yeah, we get Tony's insecurities. Well, we get the insecurities of various characters, don't we? We get Tony's struggling with his masculinity, and his new bodyguard, who's a lot more macho than he is, stronger than he is, seemingly, at least until the end he is. Um, Johnny Sack, can't keep his emotions at bay. And of course, we get Vito, sort of the reintroduction of the whole thing that was set in motion in unidentified black males in the previous season, being caught at the club, the gay club. Yeah, and we get bits and bobs with Junior and Christopher as well, but yeah, we have to talk about the wedding itself. What's my favourite part? I would say those assholes the asshole security guards, probably the coldest that they've ever been, that any kind of law enforcement has ever been. First of all, they're like very unsympathetic to Tony as he's waiting in line. He collapses after trying to take off his shoes, and the guy is like, sorry, Meadow, or sorry, Miss. Yeah, not sympathetic at all. And then, of course, they brutally take away Johnny Sack in front of everyone. They don't even wait for his daughter to leave the wedding. And we get the wonderful scene with talking where Johnny orders the whacking of Rusty Melio, Frankie Valli, and they pretend to have a conversation with their two older folks. I think Johnny's father and Johnny's aunt, and two aunts, I think. Yeah, that's really funny, the way they sort of bullshit a conversation about a lot lighter subject when in fact they're discussing a very heavy subject. So yeah, this is sort of where Phil can kind of see that Johnny Sack is unraveling and that he's probably going to be the boss going forward. I think, yeah. Even Cinderella didn't cry. But yeah. Yeah, we get a lot of little setting up things here, don't we, with Vito and everything else, and yeah. So yeah, where are we here? Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. John Sacrimony request. This is going to be. This is above the Happy Wanderer. I think it's above. It's not as good as a test stream. I think it's somewhere. I'm going to put it above Funhouse, even. I think somewhere there. I think, yeah. Yeah, it's an episode I really like, to be honest. Yeah, as I've said, yeah. So yeah, that's Mr. and Mrs. John Sacrimony request. So the 6th episode is Live Free or Die, the state motto of New Hampshire. So a very appropriate title, as we'll see. Yes, this is pretty much all about. This is mostly about. Yeah, this is pretty much entirely about the whole Vito thing. Really, there's one or two of bits and bobs, but yeah. Got the infamous sequence with the telling gay jokes at the Bing, all kinds of puns and innuendo. You kind of have to wonder about the insecurities of some of these guys again, don't you? Some of them have been in prison, and we all know what goes on in prison. Yeah, we get I think Malfi kind of brings that up to Tony, doesn't she? This is one of the great Tony Malfi scenes in this episode. Obviously she takes a liberal viewpoint of it, and she basically gets Tony to take a sort of tolerant viewpoint of it, at least. Yeah, and yeah, we get the sequence with there's so many great sequences in this episode. We get Finn at the Satriali's, awkwardly conveying what he saw to them, and we get the scene with Vito at the hotel, the motel, whatever it is, very almost utopian like motel. Yeah. So yeah, this is a very good episode again. I think this has got to be in low A tier again, lowish A tier, somewhere around there. I think, yeah. So yeah. So the seventh episode, Luxury Lounge. Probably not as bad an episode as it's ought to be, I don't think. We do get a good. We do get. I think this is the last big arty storyline we get. Basically, Tony telling him some home truths and him learning some home truths about how to handle his business, and yeah, big feud with Benny, criminal mastermind. Um, yeah, yeah, and the storyline, this that we the bigger storyline, or as big a storyline in this that we doesn't go down particularly well generally, is Christopher going to Los Angeles with little Carmine and meeting Ben Kingsley, um, and Lauren Bacall as well. Yeah, I mean it doesn't feel that great, does it? It's kind of, it feels a bit too much like they're just putting celebrities in for the sake of it, and yeah, I mean we do sort of get insight to what Hollywood is like with the luxury. Is it the this is where they get the free items, and that's where the luxury lounge name comes from, isn't it? Yeah. But of course they don't get Kingsley to sign on, and that's kind of funny, really. It's kind of, yeah. I don't think Kingsley knows about their background as such, does he? He's just kind of a snob who, in this, depicted as being a snob who doesn't feel that he knows them well enough, basically. Yeah. Yeah, so it's not a great episode, but it's probably not quite as bad as some people say. Probably lowish B tier, I'd say. Yeah. So the eighth episode is Johnny Cakes. Um, so yeah, we get this is very not a very well liked episode just because of how heavy it is on the whole Vito storyline again. We get the introduction of Julia Skiff here, another love interest of Tony and Christopher's, I think. Yeah. Um, and yeah, the scene where Patsy and Bert give that, like, they're they sort of find out that they can no longer, that big corporations have taken over the local neighbourhood, and the coffee corporations. And we get the great line, it's over for the little guy. And yeah. And we do get the last, we don't see him, but we get Assemblyman Ronald Zalman's last sort of role, where he gets AJ off the hook for trying to stab Junior. He makes a big fuck up of it, of course. AJ does, that is, makes a big fuck up of it. Yeah. Yeah, the Johnny Cake storyline is sort of perhaps too overly done, it's too much of it, perhaps. Yeah. I mean, you could sort of, it would have been nice if they just left Vito to live happily ever after, but of course, I guess they were never going to. Why not just do what they did to Furio and just let him run off and assume and hope that he was okay and happy for the rest of his life. But yeah, they didn't go down that route with Vito, unfortunately. So yeah, another B tier. Oh, I don't. Yeah, it's low B tier again, I think. Probably somewhere around there, yeah. So episode 9 is The Ride, and I think this is a somewhat underrated episode. The last time you see Tony and Chris kind of getting along with each other, kind of reliving their old bond, and it sort of makes it sad, really, doesn't it? And you get the whole Paulie acting like an arsehole basically throughout this, with the feast and all this, and the whole thing with the ride operator, the ride crashing and almost killing, well, not almost killing, but almost injuring Janice and her daughter Nucci. But Paulie does kind of redeem himself by the end of this episode, or he sort of sees what the right way forward is. Paulie reunites with his not real mother, as a result of, basically, because he knows his time may be limited because he's got prostate cancer. And yeah. Oh, I love this is a great Phil line in this episode where he's getting some donuts from the feast, and he says, go easy on the sugar, honey. They tell me I'm sweet enough. Yeah, I think I've used that in real life. Stolen that line in real life. So yeah, this is, I think, an A episode, actually. It's quite a good one of the better ones of this half season. Yeah, somewhere in A, I think. Somewhere about there, I think, yeah. So, episode 10 is Mo and Joe. This is the episode where Johnny Sack sort of flips and gets 15 years in jail. Well, gives an allocution. Anyway, yeah. And this is where Vito stupidly decides to go back to New Jersey. One of the stupidest things that any character does in the whole show. really. Yeah, and we got some. There's some Bobby stuff here where he gets injured by the gang of youths. Yeah, um, yeah, and Tony and Janice feuding a bit here as well about Bobby, etc. Yeah, um, and the poaching of the poaching of Johnny and Ginny Sack's house as well. That's one of the coldest things Tony does, probably, but he uses the allocution as an excuse to do so. Kind of justifies it in his mind. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of episodes that are somewhat forgettable in this half season, but shouldn't be, perhaps. It's kind of a lot goes on here, but yeah, this is somewhere B tier, low mid B tier, I'd say, somewhere around here. Yeah. So the 11th episode of season 6A is Cold Stones. One of the great episodes of this half season, certainly one of the better ones of this half season. Yeah, we get the Carmela going to Paris with Rosalie. Certainly the biggest Rosalie episode, I think, of the whole series. Um, and yeah, we of course we get the biggest death, I think, of this half season, the killing of Vito. Sort of one of those, I guess, in that category of inevitable deaths, along with Adriana and Big Pussy and Mikey Palmisi and Jackie Jr., I guess. Yeah. Um, and of course we get the theories here about why is Phil so insecure about this whole thing. And of course he literally comes out of a closet to kill Vito. Possibly not a subtle metaphor there. Yeah, it's sort of a shame because Tony was sort of on the brink of giving him a pash, as he would say. Yeah, yeah, and we get the great scene with um, big fat Dom Gamilio. Killed by Carlo and Silvio again, perhaps because they were so insecure about what he was saying, the kind of innuendo and jokes about Vito he was saying. Yeah, and we get the brutal scene at the end with Vito's two kids finding out about what happened to their father. He was both a mobster and gay at the same time. Neither that. Well, obviously the gay thing shouldn't be a problem, but unfortunately it is in that lifestyle, isn't it? In the mafia world. But yeah, so this has got to be S tier, low S tier, I think. Probably just below the fleshy part of the thigh, I think. Yeah. So yeah, Cold Stones that is, and now we get to the final episode of the half season. Um, and this is Keisha, I think. Yeah. and this is possibly, if we count 6A as a season, this is by some distance the weakest season finale. We get possibly the highlight is the Carmine, little Carmine putting his foot in it, putting his foot in his mouth in it in the scene with Phil. Whatever happened there with Billy and Tony B. Reminding him of that for no reason, kind of thing. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff with AJ and Juliana, and I guess the big event of the episode is Phil having a heart attack. That leaves that in the air for the next season or the next half season. Will he recover? Has Tony got a reprieve from Phil Leotardo, having a heart attack? But yeah. And yeah, the sort of ending is sort of typical of this episode. It's not like overly dramatic, it's not like overly memorable, but I guess it's sort of the last good time that these characters have before everything turns to shit. Yeah. So yeah, not the best. I think this is definitely B tier. Quite low B tier just because of how disappointing it is as a half season finale or season finale. But yeah. So that's the end of season 6A, and that leaves us with only 9 episodes to go, which we'll get to in the next video of this series. So yeah, that was season 6A, and thank you for watching.